What secrets was Liberace hiding? Was he really the good natured and kind person that he appeared on stage? Or was there something darker within him that caused him to crash and burn at a relatively early stage in his life? This involved a libel lawsuit against the Daily Mirror. I think it was a journalist for the Daily Mirror in 1956. An article appeared that accused Liberace of, in kind of euphemistic phrasing, I didn't come right out and say it, but in euphemistic, he indicated Liberace was homosexual. And of course, this was the kiss of death for an entertainer. Even though Liberace didn't really depend on a network or a studio for his gigs, because he did a lot of stage gigs, and I don't think that necessarily would have hurt him that much. He still didn't want this rep of being queer hanging around his neck at that time, because he knew that it would hurt him with a lot of his lady fans who thought he was the bee's knees, apparently. I don't know how they couldn't see this, but a lot of them had a hard time seeing this. Anyway, I'm going to read this from my page regarding that. In 1956, an article in the Daily Mirror by veteran columnist Cassandra William O'Connor mentioned that Liberace was the summit of sex, the pinnacle of winking, sniggering, snuggling, chromium-plated, scent-impregnated, luminous, quivering, giggling, fruit-flavored, euphemism for gay, fruit-flavored, mincing, ice-covered heap of mother love. Those were the words, and clearly that was indicating that he was queer. A description which did everything it could to imply he was homosexual without actually saying it. Liberace sent a telegram that said, "What you said hurt me very much. I cried all the way to the bank." That's his catchphrase, okay? Because he ended up suing them. And he received $8,000 in 1956 in damages. Later on, when, I think the equivalent of $22,000 in today's money. Later on, when it came out that he actually was gay after he died of AIDS complications, the Daily Mirror tried to recover their losses. They even went to court they took the Liberace estate to court to recover these losses because it was true. But they lost. I think the statute of limitation, I don't know, they lost. So Liberace was riding a wave of popularity in the 60s. He rode that wave all the way into the 70s. He could do no wrong. Everything he touched was gold. All of his television specials were hugely successful. People loved him. They flocked to see him. He was an extremely popular show in Las Vegas. He was leading a hedonistic, materialistic lifestyle and a very promiscuous lifestyle. And it was at this time that he met a man named Scott Thorson, who came into his life as a small-time hustler, okay? And Scott was hired. He was very handsome. Scott was beautiful, beautiful man. He hired Scott to be his companion and his assistant. This led to a 5-year romantic relationship with Thorson, in which he lavished expensive jewelry and gifts and cars on Thorson, who accompanied him everywhere he went. They were seen together everywhere. He wanted to be both his lover and his father, is from the understanding that I got, because the most egregious thing that he did while he was with Thorson is pressure him into getting, this man was already beautiful looking, but he pressured him into getting plastic surgery so that he would resemble him, Liberace. It was kind of a twisted thing. He wanted him to look more like himself, as if he's trying to somehow incorporate him as both a lover and a son. And this kind of messed up Scott's looks and kind of made him a little bitter Thorsen stayed with him for a long time, and it wasn't a nice breakup. Thorsen thing was complex, and it got ugly after he left. Thorsen wrote a book called Beyond the Candelabra, or Behind the Candelabra, or something like that, which was made into a movie, by the way, which is actually a really good movie. It was made 20 years later. Matt Damon and Kirk Douglas were Liberace and Scott Thorsen. It's a really good movie. I would highly recommend it. But Thorsen claimed that Liberace had an addiction to pee, and that this was one of the reasons that they split up. That and the fact that Liberace was not exactly faithful. He never stopped his promiscuous lifestyle. And that Thorsen became addicted to drugs due to the cocktail of drugs that the plastic surgeon had prescribed for him after the surgery. I'm going to read this part that's on my page. Thorsen painted a picture of a man obsessed with things and with youth, who treated his real family and friends like dirt, yet he treated his animals like royalty. He says that when Lee's mother finally died, he barely showed any emotion, probably because he didn't like his mother. But when his dog, Baby Boy, died, he spent 2 weeks crying in bed and couldn't get out of bed. Sort of like Paul Lynde's obsession with McAfee, that dog McAfee. So Thorsen stated that following his plastic surgery, the surgeon provided for him a cocktail of highly addictive drugs, including cocaine, Quaaludes, the drugs that Freddie Prinze was addicted to, methamphetamine, and Demerol. Liberace also underwent plastic surgery at this time, emerging with a face too tight, and that he looked 20 years younger, but he really didn't. He just looked freakier, okay? In 1982, after their breakup, Thorsen filed the first gay palimony suit ever in the United States. Usually these were palimony suits were filed by heterosexual couples who never married, but they split up, and the wronged person was suing the moneyed person for a lot of for a hefty settlement because they don't get anything because they're not married and divorce laws don't apply to them. Well, he filed a palimony suit against Liberace for $113 million after he was let go. It was the first time since the Daily Mirror that someone had gone public and accused that Lee was gay. And Liberace wasn't having it. He denied his sexual orientation till the day he died. So he went to court. Liberace continued to publicly deny that he was homosexual and insisted that Thorsen was never his lover. The case was settled out of court in 1986, with Thorsen receiving $95,000. That's not even close to $113 million. Thorsen, by the way, died in 2021, I believe. I hope I'm right on that. He died from cancer. So maybe this money helped him with the cancer, but I probably blew through it before that. Thorsen stated after Liberace's death that he settled because he knew that Liberace was in profoundly ill health and that he had intended to sue based on conversion of property rather than palimony. Thorsen then followed up the lawsuit with a tell-all book released in 1987 after Lee's death called Behind the Candelabra. It's interesting that it took almost 20 years, more than 20 years, almost 20 years for them to actually make a movie out of this book. Maybe that helped him with his cancer because he died shortly after this movie was released. Lee never really recovered from this emotionally. It really affected him. And because he was, so promiscuous, and this was the age when AIDS was a death sentence and people were dropping dead like flies. Rock Hudson had just died a year and a half before from complications of AIDS, and he went to his publicist finally came clean when he was on his deathbed the last month or so. Liberace, his last appearance was public appearance was on the Oprah Winfrey Show. He looked absolutely terrible on this show. He said he was on a watermelon diet. He was gaunt, painfully thin. He just looked like death warmed over on that show, and everybody knew something was terribly wrong with him. His final stage performance was at New York's Radio City Music Hall on November 7th in 1988. This was the holy grail of venues for Lee, a venue he had dreamed of performing at his entire career. He barely got through it. He was so sick. As he was very ill when he stepped on stage. Nonetheless, he gave it his all and pulled it off. It was his 18th show in 21 days. This guy never stopped. He never quit. He lived for performing. And the series grossed $2.8 million. So this was his last stage performance in a series of stage performances, with ending at the Radio City Music Hall. So just 3 months later, he would be dead. Interesting thing about his, after his death, his body was immediately sent for cremation, but the coroner in Las Vegas said, "Hold on a minute, I don't think so," and demanded that the body be brought back because he wanted to write in big letters, complications, cause of death, complications from AIDS. The family was trying to prevent that because they knew that Liberace would have been humiliated to know that his secret was finally out. But that coroner wasn't having it. And I guess he wanted to get his 15 minutes of fame because he got that body back. And he did his autopsy and he wrote in there, complications from AIDS. So Liberace's secret was out for the whole world to see. And everyone knew it. And so that was sad, because that would have been totally humiliating for him if he had been around to see it. Good thing he wasn't. He's Mr. Showmanship. He died, he was only 67 years old. That's not old. 3 years older than me. No, 2 years older than me. Yeah. So R.I.P. to Lee, Mr. Showman, Liberace. He was probably the second most famous person to die at that time from that disease. Today, it's not a death sentence. They have treatment for AIDS, and it's no longer the death sentence that it was back then. It's too bad they didn't have these treatments for people like Liberace and Rock Hudson. All right, so that's going to do it. Again, please do all the things, like and subscribe, and check out my books, Tragic Hollywood, Beautiful, Glamorous, and Dead, Tragic Hollywood, Beautiful, Glamorous, and Still Dead, and my novel, Goodbye, Angel, Goodbye. I do have a new little fashion blog if you want to see that. I'll link it in the description if you care. It's kind of cute. And I guess I will see you next week.